I can't hear you.
There we
Now I
go.
can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
All right. The other one, I had everything like all perfect, written up. I don't know what happened. It's weird. Well, welcome to Starseed Essence. I'm your host, Eva, and today's guest is Jim. He is a former Army officer that had a near-death experience while he was sailing. He also has contact with Arcturian and the elementals like the Fae, and he has seen an unidentified submergible object while surfing. And I like to welcome you, Jim, to Starseed Essence. Thank you so much for coming on. This is our this is our second take of recording. We tried last week, and for some reason the recording got wiped. It only recorded about 15 seconds of us, and it was a great conversation. And I'm glad
It
that you're willing to come back and do it all over again.
was so much
Hopefully,
fun.
we have
Yeah.
the same flow that we did last time.
So how are you?
Good. Happy spring equinox.
Yes, it is.
It's
It's
a
very pretty
beautiful
outside.
day here in South Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get out on the water again.
Gosh, yes. Yep.
I need that.
I'm saving my pennies for a new surfboard. I'm excited.
You go like every day, just about, don't you?
As often as I can, yeah. As often as there are waves and my body will let me. Yeah. It's just a great way to stay connected to kind of everything.
Yeah. Well, so a little bit about your background. Um, I just want people to, I'm just laying a foundation of who Jim is and that you're not crazy.
No.
That you're actually a credentialed, very successful person in life, and you have so much to share here. And just like, when we start talking about fairies and elementals and UFOs, sometimes people want to say, "Oh, she's crazy," or "He's crazy." I don't think that's true. I think more and more people are going to start realize that there's more to this 3D realm than we understand, and it's not just 3D, it's 4D, 5D, 6D, or however you want to determine it or define the quantum, etheric, interdimensional realm of existence. And so I would like to first start off with like the background in military. So you have a background in Army. Now, what was that little flash? Okay. 'Cause
Oh, I just turned off my cell phone and
uh,
the sun caught that.
okay. I was like,
I
yeah,
can
I know
repeat
you
that.
talking about the
Ta-da!
Orbeez.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So in the military, I was in a very serious unit. I was in a unit that was part of the rapid deployment force. We were called the heavy complement. We had nuclear weapons. An aspect of my job was I was cleared for top secret, given secret. If ordered to do so, I was to assemble and deploy a tactical nuclear weapon. So that is the person who I was. And the person who I became after this near-death experience was very different. And since you've been through one yourself, you know how profound they can be.
Yes.
Um, and we're all gently told slightly different things, I feel, when we go through the veil and come back. So that's where I was, and this is where I am. And most of the time, if you meet me, you're just going to think I'm a dad hanging out at the beach. Just like when you were introduced to me through our mutual friend, and we're just a mom and a dad on the beach and having a nice normal day next to our surfboards.
Yeah.
But then when you begin to sort of peel back life, you begin to have a different kind of a knowing about the way things seem to really work. I think one of the most interesting things is people who are intrigued to meet. I'll stick with the Fae. I'll just say, sit down in a quiet, weedy place, even at the edge of a parking lot, with a good heart, and ask. And eventually there'll be a very interesting conversation that's had between you and them. Um, and it's a very productive thing. They truly want to be remembered. They want the wild places where they live to be preserved, and they want to develop a relationship with humanity. Um, and as long as we do that, I think we're going to just become better and better at living on this planet.
Yes, because we're becoming more open and seeing what's always been there. Well, some of us have always kind of been tapped into. And so you've had a pretty profound and real relationship with the Fae or these elementals. It's however we want to define what the Fae is in our minds, but you've developed a pretty intimate relationship with these beings, and I want to call them inner earth beings, because I also have a relationship with the Fae and the fairies, and sometimes as a child you gain that connection, and it kind of opens doors to all the other, like Bigfoot as well. Like you've also had an experience with Bigfoot. I definitely want to touch on that. I think Bigfoot is interesting. Some people say scary. I don't think so. I think gentle giant. I know I did a quantum healing hypnosis session, um, well, I used to conduct them, but this was one I did on myself. I did two, and I was Sasquatch. I came back
Wow,
and said I was a Sasquatch in my past life. So one of my
interesting.
past lives.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I remember being so I have a little piece of land in western North Carolina, and before we built a house there, I had some friends who I met um, come over because where we were going to put the house, there were a lot of very rare plants, and I didn't want to just have them bulldozed. Hundreds of wild cypripedium, which are the lady slipper orchids, the pink ones, and then a lot of plants that my friends really understood that needed to be moved. And we successfully moved those plants to their property, which was probably about 40 minutes away. So these were two very serious people. They were PhD candidates. And the road that the house is on is shaped like the letter J. It's a dead end. It's like a big gravel driveway. And we walked down to the creek from my property around the corner, and we're down at the little bridge. And I turned around and looked back, and I said, "Oh my God, there's Bigfoot." Now this was a daytime sighting, 100 feet away, clear weather. And my friends looked up and they saw it too. And the Bigfoot walked across the road and sort of walked off the edge of the I'm not going to call it a cliff, but it's probably a 75-degree angle, partly over the creek, and just disappeared into the treetops. Now, how do you walk in thin air? Here's the most intriguing part. He made eye contact with us, and he dropped a piece of wood he was carrying. And I say he because I feel it was a male. And so this being dropped a piece of wood, and we walked up and picked up the piece of wood.
Hmm.
So that's not just I saw something.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Were they
the
scared? Were you scared at all? What was like the vibe that you felt when you saw it?
I'm going to describe the two people who are with. It was husband and wife. Um, he is the kindest eyes I've ever seen, and I call him Santa Claus for fun because he has such a nice way about him. I call her Mother Nature because she can talk to everything. And she simply picked up the piece of wood and she goes, "I don't like the energy off this piece of wood. Get rid of it." So I did. Um, I think this is an opinion based on future events that happened later. Those beings, and for whatever reason they want to be called beings of the forest, I just call them Bigfoot because if you start saying beings of the forest, people have no idea what you mean. And they simply are the guardians for that piece of land. Well, they don't know what your intentions are yet. It's like a new neighbor. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Um, so um, it was very very profound. And I feel the energy coming off the piece of wood was a message of behave, truly behave.
Or else.
Right. And I can kind of back up. So I was sleeping in my car for a while on this piece of land in my little Honda. And one night I woke up, and my head was toward the engine and my feet was toward the back of the car, and I'm up on my elbows. And I knew I was being watched. And from the front bumper of that car, something growled at me so harshly that it rattled the air in my lungs. And I sort of began to turn, and in my head, I got a telepathic message: if you turn around and look at me, I'll kill you, which was not something I expected. So I did what a friend taught me. She said, always ask to be friends. So I said, I'd rather be your friend, and the energy changed. And I feel that it was a test, sort of a man-to-man chest thump. Now, fast forward, say 2 months. And there's a trailer up the road at the time. The trailer is there, but the owner has since moved, and he had a bunch of big old wolfy hound dogs, just what you think in your mind a bunch of country boys in Western North Carolina would have. And he probably had about 8 of them. And they were howling in fear at 2:30 in the morning. And this is what I heard. I don't know if it'll convey through the microphone. So I got out of the car and I listened, and I heard, oh.
Hmm.
And that was about 300 yards away, which is where the trailer was. And I heard wood knocks. That's interesting. So I went back to bed. About 4:30 in the morning, it happened again at a greater distance. So that was interesting. Another Bigfoot story was a guy delivered propane to my house, and he had a Bigfoot tattoo on his arm. And I said, ever see one? And he looks at me kind of hard, and he says, I live equidistance from the church that you live, except on the other side. So he lived about a mile away. And so he said, now this was a guy, big beard, python arms, huge chest, about 5'10", could toss you around. Nice man. And he said, my wife and I and our 2 kids were playing in the backyard on our land. We own about 6 acres. And he said they heard sort of growls and wood snapping behind the house, I think maybe 100 feet. And keep in mind, the land there is like this. It's just up and down. There's almost
This
nothing
is in
flat.
North Carolina.
Correct. And so what happened there was his wife was so afraid, and I got the impression she wasn't a scaredy cat, that she grabbed the kids and ran in the house. And he did what most guys would do to protect their families. He went to investigate. And there had been a tree being shaken up the hill. And he got up there, and he said it was a 6 to 8 inch diameter tree that had been pulled clean out of the ground and placed next to where it had been growing. It wasn't laid down, it was just plucked
Okay.
and dropped, which I feel is a bit of a sign.
Yeah. You hear that they do that.
Right. And so I'll sum up the Bigfoot things with, I've had many, many visitations by a female Bigfoot. She'll turn on my sensor light. I don't
Maybe it
see
was
her.
me in a past life.
Yeah, you never know. And so she would simply talk to me because I was given permission to build a house, but it's the county and you have to do things their way. So you have to bulldoze a half an acre of land and put in a septic system and things like that. So my job was to put the land back better than I found it. So fruit trees, wildflowers,
Yeah.
things like that. But she would always sort of come in and keep doing your work like a
Wow.
good mom, like a really good mom, because they
Oh.
know I want to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, you're tapped into nature very deeply, almost like a Native American type. I get that from you. I don't know if that's in your genes somehow or
90% Irish, 10% Spanish.
okay. Wow. You're
But I
90%
mean,
Irish.
yeah,
Wow.
and then the guys in the army started calling me the druid. I didn't give myself that label. And I said, why do you guys call me the Druid? And the first sergeant spoke up. He said, because you're always walking around showing us the fossils and sticks and plants around the training areas. Okay. And I've just always been that way. My mom said when I was 5, I asked to keep all the bugs in the yard in my bedroom. So
I used to take the the circadian skeletons and just like put them all over me.
Yeah, that was my idea of a good time. Yeah. So my job is to help keep this planet light and to interact with elementals, things like that. I have fairy story after fairy story about that property.
So that you built a circle, a special circle, and what did you construct the circle with?
Okay, so I went to England in 2018 and did a lot of shamanic training over there. I came back. I had visited a lot of the stones. I visited Avebury Stone Circle, which is lesser known than Stonehenge, but it's the largest stone circle in the world. It's so big there's a town in the middle of it. So I was very impressed because these stones were about the size of if you took an average pickup truck and just tilted it up. That's how big these stones are, if not bigger. So I came home, and my contractor, when we were building this little cabin, he said, "What do you want me to do with the rocks?" And I was like, "I don't know what you mean." He said, "We have rocks the size of sports cars that we need to do something with." I said, "All right, you want to make me happy? I want Stonehenge." And he goes, "What?" And he's a hoot because he and I have the same last name and our families are from the same part of Ireland, and he's from Ireland. Somewhere we're related. Me and him and his backhoe driver, we really worked it out. And since we live at the beach, I went to the beach and I said, "How much room do I have?" And he said 38 square feet, or circular, 38 feet across. So I put a stake in the sand and some string, and I drew a circle 38 feet and kind of looked at it and things like that. So these stones, there's 8 stones, and the outer stones are about 8 feet tall, but they're 3 feet in the ground. So they're about up to here on an average person. Because you're tall, I think they'd be about that tall on you. And then the inner circle, and those are set, the big stones are set north, south, east, west. And the inner circle, I just decided to have fun, and I made the distance from the inner to the outer stones the Fibonacci sequence, which was like
That was,
1.64
yeah,
or something. Yeah.
I
So those
believe that
stones
was
are little.
your guides
Yes.
telling you to do that.
Right. Yeah. And it just gets more and more interesting, I think, because, so the inner stones are about the height of an average headstone. So they maybe come up a little above your knees, mid thigh. And those are set at the intermediary directions from north, south, east, west. And then there's a center stone. Now, fast forward a bit, some friends visited who are very much like us, and the one was very good with dowsing rods. And so she walked around and she figured out that there are 2 ley lines that cross dead smack in the middle of this stone circle. I like to say, how?
Your guides. That's what I
Right.
was hearing. I was hearing your guides told you to do that. And
Sure.
you were, wow, I got chills with that one.
And there's a very interesting Scottish man on YouTube. His accent is very difficult for me to discern, but he said that the reason that people would use these stones, especially the stones with the quartz in them, and the stones that I used are filled with quartz. It's like a metamorphic rock. The quartz amplifies the signal of the ley line by acting like a vertical antenna coming out of the ground. And we've had so many experiences, friends and I. I've slept in that circle a lot. If I stand in the circle and play my Native American flute, if it's they're here from the spring equinox to the fall equinox, and if I do it kind of in the summertime, they'll come out of the woods and walk as you play,
Wow.
and it should
I
look
can't
like a
wait to
line of green
come up
lights.
there with you and bring a group of people. Let's do this. I'm excited about it. Like
Yeah,
I
if I
feel
and
like I can't wait. So tell the audience some experiences with the fairy there that you've seen
I,
with the
so
elementals.
sort of quasi chronologically and in a way of interest. So before we built anything, there was a pile of rocks, and I slept on them. It was early October, and there was this magic trail, I called it. I now know it's a fairy trail, and these green lights would float down the trail while I was sleeping on this rock. They were about the size of your thumbnail, and they were green, and they would stay on, and they would disappear under the rock I was on, and they'd come down the hill onesies, twosies about every 15 minutes. I was like, I have no idea what this is. I went back to sleep. So I began to realize during COVID, I would talk to people from around the world on an app. And this one woman from Wales said, "You have summer court fairies." And I said, "I don't know what that means." And she said, "They only appear in the summer, and in the winter, they go deep into the earth and do whatever they're doing." So my daughter, who's very gifted, I said, "I'd like to show you something." And it was summertime. My wife and my daughter were in the house. So we're fast forwarding to now we have a small house there. And it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And I had my Native American flute. And I said, "What do you see?" And she said, "Nothing." She's getting her master's in psychology, so she's a very grounded person. And I said, "Tell me what you see now." And we're sitting on this old locust log. And in the pitch dark from about 40 feet away, 4 dozen of these green lights rise up out of the ground and rush us. And this is not a thing you can run. This ground is like this steep.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to run around there at night. And before they get 5 feet toward us, she stands up and she screams, "Oh my God, they're fairies." She's very intuitive. So it gets even better because she's standing there and one flies through the right side of her rib cage and one lands on my shoe. So these are not ethereal lights way out in the woods. These have come close and said hello. So a year later, my wife, who's a very stern scientist and logical person, I said, "Do you want to see?" Now she knows what's going to happen. I said, "Do you want to see them?" And she goes, "Fine." And so we
And
sit down
your wife
on
has
this.
a PhD, doesn't she?
She's a surgical subspecialist, so she's an MD.
MD.
Right. So we sit on this stone wall behind the house, and as soon as we sit down, again, it's dark. It's about 10:30 p.m. in the summer. And this owl lands right above us and hoots 3 times, 3 times. And even she looks at me and goes, "Wow." And I said, "I'm going to play the flute now, and they're going to come out of the woods." And 6 of them came slowly out of the woods. My wife's energy is very different than my daughter's. And she looks at me, and they're 6 feet from us, about waist height, slowly orbiting at the edge of the woods. And she said, "Could they be luminescent insects?" And I said, "Well, they could be, but one of them just flew through your car window, which is closed." And she said, "I didn't see that." And I said, "Fair enough." I said, "Pick one in your mind and have it fly toward you." And instantly one of them flew past her left hip 6 inches away and then rejoined. I've seen these beings disappear into the gravel driveway. So they'll go into the gravel and continue on, and they make a dome of light like a large mixing bowl, whoosh, upward, and it's contained like a balloon. I invited a waitress. She squared it with her husband that she could stay very late at the house. And I literally called this woman the fairy waitress. And she showed up, and we hung out till 9:30 because typically when that's about the time in the summer that they show up. And we look out, and you have to understand, my house sits like this, but one side of the property is this high and the other side is this high. And we look out over the edge of the high porch, and there's a rock I sit on to meditate. And that rock's the size of a love seat almost. And the whole rock for 15 seconds just goes green and stayed green.
Wow.
And then turned off. So she and I walked to the creek and back, which is 400 feet. That round trip took 4 hours because she attracted so many fairies that I thought we'd step on them at one point because
She's right,
they
like
like moisture. Yeah. They surrounded her feet. Like if I took a queen size sheet and just sort of wrapped your feet, the ground around your feet in that sheet, so it's maybe 3 or 4 feet around you.
Uh-huh.
That's how many fairy were just around her feet, like 6 dozen. And I'm batting 1,000 on every single person I brought to show the fairies to. They've shown up. And
Well,
I just
I'm
determined
excited
for
to
whatever
be
reason,
one of them.
yeah, they
Cannot
don't like
wait.
cigarette. They don't like cigarette smoke, and they don't like dogs. I don't know why. That's just been my
They're
experience.
scared of
But
them, and the dogs annoy them. That's what I've
okay.
been told. They're annoyed by them. Their energy annoys them.
And so I also I went to a local bakery, and there was this very tall, older mountain mama lady that owned the bakery, and she heard me talking about the fairies to my friend, and she goes, "You want to see fairies? You got to go down to the creeks in DuPont. There's a DuPont Park in Asheville." She goes, "Go down to the creeks after dark in the summer and look." Well, I didn't feel like driving all the way to Asheville, so I went to my creek, and I brought an offering, and I sat on a rock, and these beings about that long, about the size of a banana, gently appeared, and they were Caribbean blue, and they would glow, and there was about 3 dozen of them, and I watched them for about 25 minutes, and I couldn't believe it. And she goes, "They're blue water fairies," which I didn't even know was a thing.
Blue water fairies. Huh.
And so some people call them I think the undie.
Undie. Never
Yeah,
heard of
type
that.
of elemental.
Okay.
So one other interesting thing that falls probably more into elemental than fairy, but I can't say for sure, was I like to walk up and down this half-mile long gravel road after dark in the summer. It's very comfortable. So in the daytime, I knew that there was this very long, like a Joe Pye weed, which is a very tall native plant, had sort of tilted over the road, so you could just reach it with your fingers. And it had a single leaf on it. And after dark, I saw what, for some reason, it looked like there was a white object on the leaf. So I reached up to touch it, and I felt like I was touching dry cotton candy. And then it moved, and then it flew, and then it stopped. And I could sense it was looking at me, and I think I touched an elemental.
Wait, describe what it looked like one more time. It was like white and crunchy.
Okay, so if you imagine, since we're in the South, a very young piece of bamboo,
Mm-hmm.
kind of arching, and you
Okay.
could just reach it with your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a single leaf at the end,
Okay.
and there was something white that wasn't there in the daytime that I noticed, and I'm sure somehow I was supposed to see this.
Yeah.
So I gently reached up, just really gently, and it felt exactly like what you might imagine cotton candy would feel like if when you touched it, it was not sticky and
Like
and
a
dry.
okay. Like
Just
hmm.
almost like a cotton ball, except more ethereal. But it it flew,
It's
but it flew in a way that wasn't like a praying mantis taking off or something. It was just kind of a, and then kept going. And I brought friends from California to visit for 2 weeks. And we would walk up and down that road, and they come out of the woods. They come right up to you. They come right up to you. They'll circle your head. I had a
that is
party last summer. I had 20 people, and all 20 of us saw them.
that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to be one of them this summer. Have the party
Yeah.
again. I'm there.
So there's just all kinds of things. Like, to finish the water fairy story, so I'm sitting on this rock, and it is pitch dark, and I'm looking gently downhill, and this creek falls very fast. So there's a lot of waterfalls, a lot of action in the water. But on the far side of the creek, these two balls of light appeared that were much bigger. Like, to my eyeball, they were like the size of a plum, even though they were 25 feet away, and they were a deeper green. And I heard a very fatherly voice in my mind say, "You need to go." So I said, "Okay." And I slowly started to gather myself and stand up. And I'm very comfortable in the woods after dark. And that fatherly voice simply said, "Now." And that was not a request. So that's when I heard the coyotes coming down the hill, because we have a group of about 40 coyotes there. And those Western North Carolina coyotes are big. They're much bigger than desert coyotes. They're more like the size of a really big Labrador, like a golden retriever. And you can imagine having 40 of them chasing you. So I turned on my little red headlamp. I usually go dark because you can see better. Turned on my red headlamp and just ran to the house.
Yeah.
Absolutely ran. So that was a lesson in listening.
Yeah.
Um,
And discernment too. You're discerning, okay, am I hearing this to try to scare me, or is this real? You have to be in touch with, I feel like in moments like this, you really do have to really know how to discern the vibes, the frequency, okay, I get it. I gotta go. Like, I sense it too. Or,
and my discernment has been earned in blood. I mean, I've been fooled. I've been hurt. I've been attacked. I didn't like any of that.
yeah.
But it's like life. How do you know? How do
Yeah.
you know who to talk to and not talk to? How do you know
Right.
what alley to walk down and not walk down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very interesting realm. Um, for
Yeah.
better or for worse, it's not all lollipops and Kool-Aid. Most of it
Right.
is to me, but not
Mhm.
all of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I can go on and on and on. Like one more Bigfoot story, which was I had the two friends from California visiting, and a local friend was with them, so there was four of us total. And we went for a walk down the road. And we went for a walk down the road because the one lady, she and I are kind of twinsies, kind of both druid-esque. And she said, "Do you hear that?" And it was bird whistles that weren't bird whistles.
Hmm.
They were Bigfoot whistles.
Aw.
And then the rocks started being thrown toward us, not at us, toward us, like a, "Hey, hey." And she says to me, "Let's go for a walk. We're supposed to." And five Bigfoot surrounded us as we walked the woods. And it was dusk. It wasn't fully dark, but we got a certain amount into the woods. And me and another woman in our minds, I saw some, and we were warned to go home. And the Bigfoot surrounded us and led us home, because
Aw.
the old Appalachian people will tell you so many things about the dark up there. Um,
Yeah.
and it's to be heeded at times. And Hurricane Helene in that part of the world, because that's the part of the world that Hurricane Helene body slammed. Um, and in short, it stirred up a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
to include at my land. So places that I used to feel comfortable walking on, I don't quite feel comfortable anymore
Yeah.
after dark. But yeah, there's a million interesting things. I mean, I created a fairy portal in my house. Um, if you've ever heard of the crystal called fulgurite,
Mm-hmm.
that's for the audience. That's where lightning will hit something that's very mineralized, like beach sand, and it solidifies it by melting it. And people, you can buy that. But these elder fairies love fulgurite. Wow. You want to win points? Bring them some. So
That's a
I bought
good
a little,
good to
yeah,
know.
I bought a little piece about the size of a dice or a die. Has a hole in the middle, and I hung it up on something that I found. This is interesting. So I went down to the center of the stone circle, and as I frequently do, I will face the sun and just show gratitude standing on this rock in the middle of the stone circle. Well, I'm really dialed into noticing little things. I'll miss the mini mall, I'll miss your car, I'll miss you, but I will see little tiny things that most people miss. And the day before, I had really cleaned off this rock that I stand on. And nobody's on this property because this property is in the middle of nowhere. And I looked down, and right in the center of the stone circle is one of those little tiny aluminum medallions you can buy at the woo woo store. And it was a medallion of a fairy, dead smack in the middle. And I kept it. I brought it back to the house and I said thank you. But I took that piece of
Amazing.
fulgurite and I sewed the two together and hung it in the window and dedicated it as a fairy portal. As long as your heart is pure as a fairy, you can enter that.
That's
You
awesome.
know, yeah, because
I want to tell a quick story because I'm being guided to tell the story. I completely forgot about it until now. So the property that I'm on, I moved back to. It's a property that I kind of grew up on. So there's a area that I dedicated to the fairies when I was little. Well, when I came back here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just filming, and it's just tree stump, and it's hollowed out. I'm talking about it's hollowed out enough to where half of me could walk into. It's big, hollowed out. But I tell everybody it's the fairy portal. And when I first moved back here a few months ago, I took rose quartz and I set it down as an offering. The next day, the rose quartz was gone. I don't know. And this is in the middle of nowhere. So I do not know so I even thought somebody must have come out and took it. But then I thought, no, the fairies took it because I actually caught a couple fairies on camera. They're interdimensional. You can see them. But I've also caught many fairies throughout hundreds of videos. So I kind of just do away with the video. It's kind of like, seeing is believing, but is it? And why do we even need the video to begin with? We really don't. I'm sure you don't really, care about that either. At a certain point, it's like, yeah, yes, the videos don't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is your experience with it. Because you could tell people all day long to show them a video, they're still not going to believe it if they see it unless they see it with their eyes. But yeah, that is interesting about you said it was, let me jot that down. What kind of stone did you tell me? It was the sand
it's like a the fulgurite.
fulgurite.
So Fulgurite. It's commonly available. You can find that online very easily. Um, and so you can imagine if you just kind of took beach sand and you could mold it like Play-Doh, but it stays kind of fuzzy and loose. The sand, it follows the line of the light.
Kind of looks like glass,
Yeah, yeah, because it
like
just
clear.
fuses it. Yeah, it's sort of a Coke bottle clear. That greenish clear. At least the one I have. Probably depends on what it strikes. Whatever the lightning strikes. Because I've just found on my property, I have three personalities in the fairies. You have the elders who are very stern, and you better be very. Think of a nice old grandmother, but they'll still grab your ear if you're not polite. Then you have, I just call them the people who are just sort of the moms and dads going about their everyday business. They've got stuff to do. They're busy and they don't really interact with me too much. I can see them. And then lastly, I call them the juveniles, and they will pinch you and laugh like a bunch of sixth graders. Because I've told them they're allowed in the house as long as they're nice. And they'll
Yeah,
come right up through the hardwood floor
they'll
and
help
float
too.
around my bed and leave. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Um,
help a lot.
I
Yeah,
They also know I'm here to help. Like an example of the sternness is this. So behind the house, there's a big rock about the size of a Greyhound bus that's half sunk in the ground. That's about what it looks like. And one of the male elders said, "You will not approach this. Just full stop." And I said, "Understood." Just like I wouldn't come to your house and not knock.
yeah.
And if you told me not to come to your house, I wouldn't come to your house. And that's the end of that. Because you better be polite. Um,
Well, so I kind of want to, and I didn't mean to interrupt earlier.
no,
Sorry.
no, no,
I'm
it's all
trying to
fun.
be good about that, but I was like, I got to tell him the story. So I do want to touch on the light that you saw while you're out. You were paddleboarding or surfing. You saw a light under the water.
Right. So that was interesting. So
What year was that? It was like 2020.
I bet that was during COVID. So I bet that was about 2020. Yeah. And so I'm out there, and it was a particularly calm day. There was a lot of those cannonball jellyfish floating around that we see. But I looked down and I saw something come up like this. about that speed, till it was just a few inches under the water surface, and it was rectangular and pale yellow, and you could see through it. Think of a yellow glass of soda. That's about what it looked like, color-wise. And it was about the size of a queen-size bed.
Huh.
And
That's huge.
yeah, I mean, and so what I did was I paddled around it very slowly. And as
You
I
weren't
paddled
scared?
around it, no, you know the deal, like look, you've done things,
Mm-hmm.
and you know when to back away and when
Yeah.
to get closer.
Yep.
So, I wouldn't try to pet a coyote, but I'd try to pet a cat.
Yeah.
You just know. And I'm looking at it, and I slowly paddled around it 3 times, and I couldn't understand what I was looking at.
Yeah, what is this?
But I kind of felt that I was being watched
Mm-hmm.
from as I was watching it. And after maybe 3 minutes, I don't quite remember, it just slowly went back down beneath the waves.
And this was off the coast in Georgia, South Georgia, kind
Yeah,
of level.
maybe 200 feet out, off the beach. You're kind of outside the breakers waiting for the next wave to surf.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly, and it was a very glassy day, which means the water just looks kind of mercurial and
Mm-hmm.
smooth. There's not a
That
lot
is
of
so
texture.
interesting. What do you feel like that was?
It was alive. It was part of the earth.
Mm-hmm. Sitting in the
I'm a
earth
chant.
ship?
Yeah, I just think it wasn't no. They're telling me it was something very ancient that we don't quite understand yet as humans. So, um, I feel that I can say this as a related way because perhaps this part of where you and I visit the beach is magical. You sort of tuned me into that more than I even thought about.
Oh, yeah.
So COVID was raging, and me and this woman who I didn't know very well were surfing, and we're about 200 feet apart, and it's dusk, and we're the only two people on the water, and she's the most normal mom in the world, right? And all of a sudden we both just paddle off the water as fast as we can, and she looks at me, and we're both breathless, and she says, "Did you feel that?" And I go, "You can feel stuff?" And she goes, "Yeah, there's something really big out there." And I said, "I felt it too." And then I got the word Leviathan, which I've heard the word, but I don't know what it means at the
Yeah,
time.
I did. Yeah.
So I looked it up, and it's a giant sea serpent.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating about that to me is, as you know, is the Georgia coast is very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you go out very far, you're only in about 8 feet of water. So I just don't know what to say, except
Yeah.
we both sensed something that was
Yeah.
there that we couldn't see, that was huge.
Yeah. There's something there. That whole area, there's something there.
And ever since you said that to me, I kind of feel dialed into that presence of deep underneath
Mm-hmm.
that river mouth, there's something.
There's something. I'm not
Um,
quite for sure. I know that I've tapped into it, and then the minute I tapped into it, a few minutes later, I saw the black helicopter. The black we talked about that our last conversation, but
and after you told me about the helicopter, I was down there surfing, and I looked up and I saw a helicopter I'd never seen before. And I'm sure it was real, you know, um, but I had never seen that type of helicopter before. So I
yeah.
don't know what it was.
I don't know. I feel like somebody knows something, but
Hmm.
but it's very interesting. But well, so your near-death experience, can you kind of just, give a little short summary of what that was
Sure.
about?
So I used to teach sailing at a local high school, two local high schools. And I went down to Tampa to get a certificate for insurance purposes for the high schools. And you're out there with these really wonderful people, and they're the children of privilege, and they were all but born in a sailboat. I wasn't. And I was much older than they were. These are Olympic class sailors. And I got tired. and I dropped the tiller, the stick that controls the boat, and the boat kind of spun out. Um, and I went to grab the tiller and I got hit by the boom, which is the stick that holds the bottom of the sail flat. It's a big, giant piece of aluminum. It'd be like if I gave a healthy adult an aluminum baseball bat and said, hit me right here as hard as you can. And I went down and I died. I was dead for 25 minutes. I saw my body on the dock. It was a concussion. It was not gross. I don't want anyone to get oogie. I was about 20 feet from my body, about 10 feet off the ground. And then I blacked out again. And that took about 2.5 years to recover from. That was very hard. But I came back completely different, just completely different.
Yeah.
And had to really become the new Jim.
Yeah.
So that was hard. That was very hard. Was it worth it? Oh, it was totally worth it. But it was hard.
Yeah.
Jane Goodall, the lady that used to work with the chimpanzees who recently passed, she wrote a poem about kind of what happened to me. And by the way, I always like to say there's lots of people like me. I'm talking to one, that we come back to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of this long poem that she wrote, she says, there are people who cross the bridge and they look back and they sit in utter peace and they're content, but they see the world for what it really is and they go back to help and they give up that other peace to help. And that's what you and I did.
Yeah.
Dying is easy. Coming back is hard. That's my
It's the
opinion.
double-edged sword of it all. It's whew, the other side, there's some things like we talked about, the scary scenario where you saw the pupils kind of change into slit eyes, and I've seen that too. And I know other people that have seen that as well. And it is a gift. It's scary at first. It is a gift though, because you know what you're dealing with when you're seeing that. You're like, okay, I recognize you, and then you can say things to. I feel like I've been able to address telepathically things like, I see you, I know what you are. You know, don't mess with me, and it will just sit back, the whatever it is that tries to attach or attack or get into you in any way, shape, or form. But
Yeah, especially because different beings have different definitions of what humans would label as moral or amoral. And a lot of it's just perspective.
mm-hmm.
And, are you a hero or a villain? Well, whose side are you on? And that's hard, and it bothers me. But, you just have to kind of roll with it. I remember when you come, because we're talking about the near-death experience. Like when I came back, one of the things that happened was I walked into a restaurant, and I don't hear voices, I have knowings. You just suddenly
Yeah.
know something.
Yeah.
Well, this was a voice. That was different. It was early on, and the voice said, you can manipulate everyone in here. And it was like your dad shaking the car keys at you when you're 16 and going, you have no idea how much power you have.
Yes.
Under that little right foot
And
of
the
yours
power
as
is
you drive.
love. It's
Yeah, right. And so, as an example, because I feel that when you're given a great gift, sometimes they want you to take it for a test drive.
mm-hmm.
And this was really early on. So I'm going to be vague on purpose, but I was returning something to a major store outlet. And the manager was not nice to me and surrounded me with 3 security guards. And I don't know what his problem was. He was a bully.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I literally just said, you have to behave. And this man was much bigger than me, much stronger than me, and much younger than me. And he looked at the floor and he started to cry.
Yeah. Did
And
you
the
say that
security
out
guard,
loud, or did you say it
yes,
telepathically out
I
loud?
said it out loud. And the 3 security guards this part I didn't like at all. They were kind of afraid of me. That's not my place.
Yeah. I find that security guards actually protect me anywhere I go. It's like they know that they're like, if they ask me to move out of the way, they're doing that for a reason. It's everywhere. It's this weird one. Once you realize this stuff, you're like, oh, you look at reality. Even when you walk into a crowd of a room, you perceive different. My senses are everywhere. I see when I walk in, I can sense. I have the precog thing where I can precog something. We talked about that too. You can precog stuff, know stuff that's going to happen before it happens, type thing.
And you meet so many younger people, say people in their mid 20s and younger, and they're so overwhelmed by this world because they really are these very capable, very empathic starseeds.
Yeah,
And they're here to help. It's just very hard on them.
yeah, and
One
you
of the
can't
big
tell
things I
them.
do, right? One of the big things I do almost all the time is, especially in the Asheville area, there'll be a young person behind a register, and I can tell that they want to sort of be switched on. It's not my choice, they're asking.
Mhm.
And so you just give them a little confidence boost. And I've gotten my little spiel down very good, and I put on the grandfatherly, fatherly face. And I just say, you've got a great voice. You really are a confident person. It's really nice to meet such a young, confident person, and I hope you have the best day. That's typically the whole pitch. But you see them sit up and
Mhm.
smile and puff a bit.
Mhm.
And now that person is ready to help. And they're off to the races, because we need all these people to help.
Yeah,
And
we do.
that's why
Every
we're here
single
to
one of
help.
us, every single person is. It's important, and everyone's story, everyone's everything, one at a time. Just like
And as you,
just like I was gonna say, just like at work, whenever I'm taking care of a patient, when I'm with that patient, it's one at a time. They have my full energy. I'm taking care of them. They're and not just them, all their family and everything involved in the environment. I look at the whole world that way.
and
It,
as you mentioned, you for a while when you were young, you helped people pass,
hmm
and that is an art too. And
Yeah.
I found not something I was looking for, but in England we were trained to do it, and I've just found I was good at it. And I'm going to be a little. Here's a story about a big hospital in Atlanta, and I was there for a long time for a family member. And I went to take a break because it's emotionally draining. And I went to an empty break room, and I'm just sitting there with my back against the wall, what amounted to about a folding chair. And I felt a female presence behind me. That's a solid wall. And I heard her say to me, "We've been waiting for you." Okay. So she said, "You need to help these souls cross over." And I believe it was about 31 souls. Like, I don't know how you can count them, but you just know.
Yeah.
And it was basically everyone who had died on that ward and had not passed, had not crossed.
Yeah.
And so you do what I did it the way I was trained, but you do it with your whole, like you talked about with your patients, your whole focus is in that moment. And it's just a big bubble of love.
hmm
And I'm sure that this woman who was speaking to me helped, because, we're all here to help each other. And they went to where they wanted to be. And that was really nice. I'm sure it brought a lot more peace to the people who could sense these things on that ward.
hmm
Um, there was a Jamaican grandmother taking care of my family member. You could tell she was an angelic, and it was so wonderful. And she knew I knew, and I like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you're allowed to notice them.
hmm
Um, yeah,
Well, I've I really enjoy talking to you, and your stories are just amazing, and I cannot wait to go to the fairy circle. Now, one thing we have not talked about or touched on, and we can come back to it in another episode of it, soon again. But the Arcturian connection that you have, and
Yeah.
and and I know, like, before you said you saw flashes of light. I wanted to know, like, I've been thinking about this. Like, are they in your mind's eye, or do you actually physically see them out? Like, whenever you get the like blue flashes that you talked about, I can't exactly
So
remember.
the blue flashes are a recent thing. Like you, I usually go to bed, but when I go to bed, I go out and I look at the sky. Pretty much 99 nights out of 100. And then, being an old dude, I kind of wake up early and I go outside pre-dawn and I look at the
Hmm.
sky again because it just really makes me happy.
Hmm.
Well, this is kind of a new thing with me. I go out and I see imperceptible sparkles, almost like if you took a little bit of silver glitter and put it in a glass of water. Just a few pieces of glitter. Doot, doot, doot. And so that happened the last couple of nights in a row. But last night it was the most profound. And I'm in bed and I'm reading. And they came in the room with me, but they were much more pronounced. So much so that one of the flashes was right here and it
Wow.
lit up my shirt. And that goes from here to reality. Because I do sometimes think you just see them in
Yeah,
your mind's eye.
we do. Yeah.
So I asked them in a guarded way, "Who are you? What do you want?" They said, "Would you like to come outside?" And I said, "No, I'm comfortable reading. You're here in my room with me. Why don't you interact with me?"
Yeah.
And they didn't want to interact, which kind of went, "Who are you?"
Hmm.
Because I don't automatically trust anymore, you know? And so I don't quite know um, what that was, but I've had many other experiences, many, many.
Could have been my people
And
trying. I've asked my people to come say hey to you last night. Actually, I've done this for other people too, and I'm just interested. Like, if you're,
all right, how about this then? I give you permission to drop in if you can ask who they were.
it's it's a part of the elemental fae. Like, I've actually seen different types of beings that they're not physical. They are physical, just like the fairy. Like, but this is
So
always
you
in
feel
light.
that you feel last night was an elemental type?
Could have been elemental type. Um,
Because that's more what I felt it was.
yeah. I think that a lot, and or angelic, and because angelic you can group as a elemental type as well. So, how do we define some of this stuff? Like, I'm learning too, so I'm like, how do I even describe it? Like, but
Yeah, because I
yeah,
mean, you have the personalities of the fairy want me to work with them, so they're, you could say, beneficial to me and me to them. And then you have other beings that are not quite so friendly.
yeah.
And then you have other beings that you seem to sort of exist in a parallel way.
Hmm.
And
Well,
I think,
some of them are scared of us too. Like, they they're like, people think, oh, if I saw that, I'd be terrified. I think it was a demon, or like, no, you would know if it was a demon. You would know in your body. Like, your body doesn't, like, your instincts are very sharp. Um, but the most recent being that I saw in my bedroom, it was actually about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was leaving. It was above me, and it was leaving out the window, or out the through the wall. As I woke up, and it saw me, and I looked at it and looked at me, and for a split second we had that telepathic, and it was like, oh, I'm scared of you. I'm not supposed to let you see me, but you saw me. And I was like, hey, but to me it felt like this is my family. Like that sense of, I know you. This has been going on for years and years. This is what it is. Like,
Do do you ever do or see shadow people?
I have, I'll say a couple times, but the most recently, when I moved back to this property, there was a shadow being close. I told it it had to leave. I didn't want it here. Um, there was heaviness with it. And my neighbors do some things that I don't do, like, bad stuff. And my neighbors that moved during that time when I saw that shadow being, I believe it was a part of them. And I don't want to put that on them. I just know that, like, wholeheartedly know that. But I haven't seen it since. But it was weird because I could see it clear as day. Like I'm talking about, I walked down my steps. There's the shadow being. It noticed me noticing it, so I could follow it, and I just told it. And well, told it out loud verbally to leave. I told it it was not welcome here, that I could see it, and I was not scared of it, and that it was a coward for being a shadow. Like, if you want to be not a coward, show yourself. Like, it's like, you're a coward.
We we rented a property for about 8 months across the street from the house I'm sitting in. Okay, and then we bought the house I'm sitting in. Well, that house was very, very haunted. Um, my daughter at the time was 13. So when we moved to this house across the street, I said to her, "Can you see shadow people?" And we were sitting on the curb by the mailbox, and she pointed directly where I could see a shadow person. And she goes, "Like that one?" And if you ever saw the horror movie The Ring, it looked like the girl from The Ring crawling up the curb.
Like the
Um,
cryptid crawler type thing.
yeah, yeah, just it looked like a girl with long hair, and it was a
It
shadow. But yeah, yeah, just so many. I mean,
was
that told me
there.
that I'm not that I could see it and she could see it, so we're both not crazy.
It was there on the island you're living on now.
Hmm.
I had an
Yep.
experience with a ghost there in shackles. A woman with long hair, very long gray hair. She was in shackles, and I could see her clear as I could see you. It was in. I just woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning type thing. The TV turned on by itself, and then it startled me awake really quick. And I can see this, and I hear the shackles and everything. There's ghosts on that island. The slavery stuff, that happened, and
Well, I had a bunch of bricklayers, so they were a bunch of cool old dudes, a little older than me at the time. And as they said, they used to come back to date the cute young girls that lived here. And they talked about the mamas didn't like them because they're dating their daughters and they were on motorcycles and they were just, you know, young guys. There was a lot of hoodoo voodoo work done back here, they said. So I'm just quoting them. And so the mothers would kind of run them off. And as the guy said, he sat down, he was 18, he arrived on his motorcycle, and he was waiting for his date. And the mother really disliked him. And the piano in the living room where he was sitting, which was not a player piano, began to play by itself.
ew,
Yeah, yeah. And he
wow.
talked about there's a car dealership up by the highway. Um, and he said, that's used to belong to my family, the land. And he said, so the person who lived there passed away, and the drug addicts had stripped all the copper out of the house. So there was no electricity to the house. And he was driving back from work one day, and as he drove past the old family homestead at night, all the lights turned on in the whole house. And as he said, that's not possible because there's no way, there's no wiring. If there's no wiring, you
That
can't
is
have
so,
electrical light.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, as you know, these old, I mean, somewhere between me and you, there's that old road I showed you the name of called Juju Lane.
Yeah,
You
it's too
know,
do.
so yeah. and just it's just a hoot. I mean, these old drippy
Really?
trees and
Yeah.
places, and there are places to be. I mean, what is it called? You've heard of Ebo Landing on the island,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I'm sure a lot of the people watching know that history. And I took my son; he was 16, and he's very empathic, and I didn't give him any front-loaded information. And I said, "We're going to go somewhere, and I want you to tell me what you feel." And the closer we got, all of a sudden he said, "I'm overwhelmed by sadness."
Yeah.
And he gave a few other
Yeah.
adjectives. And then we turned around. I never told him what was going on.
Hmm.
And we slowly twined away from the spot. And he goes, "Okay, it's gone now." And then I told him the story of Ebo Landing.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's trippy.
Well, I think we've gone over the hour mark. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I really,
And we can do Arcturian stuff some other time if you like it,
yeah,
because there's a lot to be.
yeah, I want to unravel that too. And also I do want to I'm getting I'm like, like you, I'm getting hits and messages. We're gonna do I think we need to do some sort of like short film documentary on the circle eventually, maybe this summer.
Absolutely.
So it's a part of one of my missions um to do. I feel like this is like the timing of everything is perfect. So,
I think mid-July, if we can arrange it, and luckily we have time, and we'll work those details out.
okay. Well,
All
thank you
right.
for coming on again for take 2.
I'm always honored to speak with you. You're such a vibrant person. I really appreciate it. And the world is very lucky to have you.
Thank you. And you too. And I'm going to I feel energized. I felt so energized talking with you last time too for like a couple days. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
Yay.
So, but thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you
And
so much. You have the
thank you
best weekend,
everybody for
okay?
watching. Namaste. Have a most beautiful spring equinox day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.